Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hardcore Fab channel. Today's video, we're messing around with this old LS engine here in a square body Chevy pickup. Now, not that crazy of a thing anymore in today's world, but what we're going to do today is a little different than what most people are doing because most people haven't seen or heard about this kit too much yet that we're going to be using. So we're going to give it a shot. We're going to see if we can't make this thing look better, because all of that on top of these things are obviously ugly, especially for us old guys that like them to look clean and just have an air cleaner up there and some nice clean valve covers and whatnot. So we're going to clean up that mess some. We're going to also keep the fuel injection because we want it to still be something that's nice to drive up and down the road and not give us a bunch of problems. And we're also doing it on a fairly decent budget, especially for everything that we're going to be accomplishing on this video. So you're going to want to stick around and check this out if you've got any interest at all in messing with an LS motor at some point in the future. Okay, so first step here, we're going to start with fuel pump. And we've already taken this tank and done some work to it, so I'll catch you up on that. So cleaned the tank, got everything all out of it, got it washed out really good, so fumes and stuff aren't too bad in it. And then we did go ahead and get a hole cut in this thing for the fuel pump to go. It's going to go right here on the top next to where the other sending unit was. It's going to be far enough away where it don't interfere with that one originally, but you know, still up here on the high side. So we've got a hole started here and then put a hole saw in there and drilled out the hole. So the hole here needed to be 2 1/8. And then we took this ring right here that I'm working on right now and just laid it on there and used it as a template to be able to drill the other holes that we're actually going to use to mount this thing down. So got those all in there, got everything all deburred, and then cleaned up and painted, and then double checked to make sure that all of the junk is out of the tank. So now that we're ready to go ahead and do an install on our pump. So this ring here is going to be the ring that actually goes onto the bottom side of the tank. I got to get these screws in here real quick and get these all set in place and tightened down, and then we'll come back to me putting this in here. Only got a couple left. Okay, so there's our bottom ring, and it's got our bolts, studs, whatever you want to call them, installed in there. They're countersunk. This is all anodized. Pretty nice little piece. And I could probably work it in through here, but it's got this notch in it where you're able to put it on anywhere. So I'm going to go ahead and just do it with the notch like it's kind of supposed to be if you were installing it anywhere else. So if you got everything installed right, it just goes right up in there real nice and easy. And then this foam piece will actually hold it in place while we're setting in our fuel pump. Alright, so up next we've got the fuel pump assembly body, I guess, or whatever you want to call it here, if you will. And we've got to set this thing up to be the right depth to be able to get as much fuel out of the tank as possible, but not have it sitting there sucking any garbage up off the bottom. So what we need to do is probably set it up to where it's about, 1/2 of an inch or so off the bottom of the tank, maybe a quarter, somewhere in that neighborhood. It's got this kind of filter with it, which if this is the kind of filter I'm thinking it is, if it touches anywhere inside the tank, it'll actually pull fuel right up through. So about 1/2 inch is what I'm going to go for when we're taking and putting this thing in here and setting it all up. So I already took a measurement in here, and it looks like I am probably somewhere right at about just under 11 inches to the top of the tank. Now the foam is going to take up a little bit. I don't know how much that foam is actually going to compress. So it's about 11 3/8 to the top of the foam. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to set this thing up to just be 11 inches tall. Whatever this compresses and goes down will be how much we've got left for spacing, I guess, if you will, of that 3/8 of an inch. So that's my goal. I've already got this tube on there, and this will be the tube that's the intake. So on the pump side. So we're gonna come off of it and need to push our pump up inside here. I've done these a couple of other times and this hose is really, really stiff. So we'll probably end up having to heat that up a little bit to get that shoved on there. So I'm just gonna kind of eyeball it for now next to it. And then kind of imagine our sock snapped up there to the bottom. Imagine our sock snapped up here to the bottom without the pump rolling away. Connor's knife's gonna hold it. And that's going to put us at about 11 3/4. So we need to take off a little bit off of that hose. It won't be too much. So we'll just clip the last of that little bit of the hose off, and then we'll go ahead and heat this thing up, get the pump slid on there and sock on, shove it down in the hole. About to screw up and not put a clamp on it. As tight as it pushes, it might not need it, but better safe than sorry. Okay. You see how far it's on there. There's the little nub that was at the end, so it's on there about as far as it can go. Then it comes with some zip ties that I guess you're supposed to use to tie this thing on. That seems a little cheesy to me, but I don't know. Again, as tight as that hose is, it might not even need anything, so maybe this is all it needs. It'll definitely be enough to keep it from rattling around, I guess. So that wasn't exactly the easiest thing to get in there, but it did go. And where's our I guess we got an O-ring for every stud. The nut. We'll get these all locked on here and then we'll bring a video back. What size is that? I don't know, little. So next up, we got to get the intake and stuff stripped off of here so we can start making way for the new stuff. Connor's already pulled the intake bolts out, and there's one little connection tube here where the water flows up through the throttle body. He's cutting that hose off now
with my uber dull knife.
His overly abused knife.
Yep.
The fuel rails, looks like you got them already loose. So we pop those just right off. That side's already gone.
Yeah.
We'll put that over there in the box. Wiring and stuff. No. The old wiring. And that's that ugly mess out of the way. We gotta grab the vacuum and see if we can't suck some of this garbage up before it gets down inside the motor. right, so we got this all put together here, and now I've got kind of some mixed emotions going on here on this so far. First thing right off the bat, no instructions with anything. I went online to try to find instructions, and there's no instructions for the actual mechanical side, at least I can find, that putting everything together. Not that we really needed them, but it is kind of nice to have a reference point just to make sure everything's going together the way that it's supposed to be going. But that's here nor there. We got it together, we got it figured out. Also, there was no intake gaskets with this thing. And also, the intake is not machined for an O-ring. It's just ready to put a flat gasket in there. So it may be argued that maybe the flat gasket is better than the O-rings if we're putting a lot of boost to this thing or something, and that might be the reason why they didn't do an O-ring in the end of the intake like Holly does and some of the others. But I would think, if nothing else, if we're not doing the O-rings in the end of the intake, we ought to at least have the gaskets. And also, we didn't have bolts to bolt down the throttle body, and the bolts that came with it for the intake itself to go into the heads to hold the intake on, I really didn't like the way they felt. The machine work on them was kind of not too great. So we actually went and bought new bolts to be able to bolt this on, and to begin with, they probably are just a hair too short because we're using that flat gasket instead of like an O-ring. And then, like I said, they just didn't feel like they wanted to hook the threads right on the head. So I don't know. We went and got new bolts. They went right in, and everything's good. So that's my only bitches so far. And other than that, everything, went together good and is looking pretty good. The rest of the machine work and all that kind of stuff on all this stuff looks pretty good. So we're gonna keep marching forward. We've got intake, throttle body. We've got the the idle air motor. We've got the mass airflow and the throttle position sensor all mounted in here. There again, no instructions on that, but fairly simple to figure out. All right, so to move forward from here though, our next step is going to probably be to make some fuel line. And the fuel line, it would have been nice if we could have brought the fuel line in right here on the back side of this rail, because then it was just right down the side of the motor and back down along the frame there right to the fuel tank. But it's not going to look like we're going to be able to do it that way, I don't think. The fitting for that did not clear up here on the back side of the alternator, so that kind of sucks a little bit. And I don't know if that's necessarily an Aces issue or not. It's just packaging from where we're going to have a fuel injector to where we're going to have an alternator, unless we change the alternator bracket situation, and then we can move it. But we're not going to do that for now. We're going to leave it going the way it's going. So I guess we put the crossover back there like we did, and we're going to probably have the fuel line pressure side coming in right here, and then that just leaves the other side capped off. So we'll make up some fuel lines, but we're probably going to do that on another day because it's getting late tonight, and I guess we'll pick this back up when we got a little bit more time. Cover this bad boy up with that. Well, up next we got to run some fuel line for this bad boy, and what we got for fuel line is some of this PTFE, and it came with this master kit that we bought with everything in it, and it also comes with all of the AN fittings and whatnot that you need to be able to hook it all up. Come with a nice filter, so we're going to put the filter in next, I think. We're attaching to the red fitting that's on the pump assembly here. It's also marked with a P, so that's going to be our pump, and that's going to be our pressure coming out. So a couple different ways we can kind of route everything here. We have to put in the filter, obviously, and then we could run it down either frame rail, come down the driver's side and maybe run it up the back of the tranny and then through the middle of the intake and up, or we can kind of route it like it was originally. And I think that's what I'm going to do, where it goes down the right frame rail and then up, and then kind of sneak it in behind the AC compressor and stuff we've got up there. I think it'll fit through there and look pretty good. So that's the direction I'm going to go from here. So I think next we've got first fitting on. I'm going to come over here and figure out where we need to put the filter at. And enough extra here to maybe sit this over here out of the way. I'm gonna go ahead and put the adapters in the end of the filters. A little WD to make everything a little bit slicker to slide these O-rings on. These fittings do just have the O-ring. You don't need anything else to be able to make these seal. Probably got enough WD left on the fingers for this one. Filter is labeled which way is in and out, so you know the flow. Guess gotta go get a bigger wrench, tighten this up. Be right back. All right, put another fitting on the end of here. We can kind of hold it up here against our line and figure out where we need to cut the line at. Okay, so I ran that fitting on the end of there, and then we can kind of figure out from that point where we need to cut this line. I'm thinking it just runs right across there. We can put a clamp right here, cushion clamp, and clamp it to there. So shortly after that would be great. And then there's even a couple of other spots over here where we could put another clamp if we wanted to. So I'm gonna just call it right about there. This stuff is pretty simple to put together. I'd only recently just done it for the first time. Double check it before I cut it. Kind of go on there, and that'll be fine. So yeah, this stuff's pretty easy to work with. Run some tape around here and just put the tape right where you need to cut. What that does is when you cut it, it keeps everything here on the outside of it from fraying and getting all crazy, so that you can get your fittings all back on there real good. And I've been just cutting with a pair of wire cutters. Probably not the best thing to cut with because they do kind of suck to cut. With these, I can't cut them all in one go. I just kind of got to get it started and then snip away a few times. And that kind of ends up leaving a sharp little point on one side, but I tried cutting with the chop saw or with just a cutoff wheel or whatever, and that doesn't work any good for me anyways. I like this better. So plus I can actually just have it attached here and know that I'm right here in the right spot for sure. But like I said, it does kind of crimp it shut a little bit, so you can take the cutters and when you go to make your next fitting go on, or put the next one on here on that side, whichever, you can kind of close it together like that the other direction, which puts it back in shape. No big deal. So we take our fitting back off here, and then the fitting itself unscrews apart from each other. There's kind of the cap, if you will, and the part there that goes on around the plastic, and then this part goes on the inside. It's a compression fitting is what it actually ends up being. So push this thing back together a little bit, like I said, with my cutters. So we'll take this piece, and it actually goes on first. This is kind of like when you're doing a brake line or something, you want to make sure that you don't forget this nut right off the bat. So we get that on there. Then we need our little piece for our compression fitting thing to go on. And I usually just go ahead and pull the tape off at this point. It's not that big of a deal now if this stuff flares a little bit, and it actually makes it a little easier to get this on if it will flare. So there's that. And a little bit of WD helps slicken everything up a little. A little bit of a chore to get it started back on there, but once you get it going, it's not too big of a deal. And then I'll actually just tap it in place. This has got a nice flat spot, so we're not damaging anything. And then we put our other end in, just push it right on in there. Again, lever up a little bit. That slid up, and now we can just put our nut back on. The nut slips over all of the little frayed spots, goes up there to the threads, and just starts going on. And once that's in place, that'll lock it in to where you can't have this fitting go anywhere. Get it as far as you can with your hands, and then you'll have to use some wrenches to run it in the last little bit. Now we're ready for filter to go on. Well, a bunch done since you guys seen it last. So there's filter we left off. We got our adapters. Then we made up another little hose. We came over here to a check valve. Check valve is in there, and then made a little 90 in there off the check valve. Fuel line runs down the frame rail, and right over here, it's kind of dark, can't hardly see, but kind of right about where the normal fuel line would be on a carbureted engine on a square body. It's coming right up here behind the water pump, and then we're going right here to the fuel rail. Now, before we get to the fuel rail, there is one adapter on there that we did put on. Got this adapter right here for our fuel pressure gauge. It's got an 1/8 inch pipe fitting in it, just kind of screws into the side. And then it goes right into our fuel rail. And then, of course, our fuel rail has a connecting tube. I'm going to get you back over here where you can see that. Fuel rail has a fuel line that we made up. It goes over here to the other side of this fuel rail. So now we've got fuel, or we should have fuel to the injectors on both sides. Next off is going to be wiring, of course, and everything on here needs a wire to it, basically. It's pretty easy, though. We've already got this stuck on here. You can see everything is labeled pretty good as far as what goes where. So, like, for instance, these coil wires are all even labeled. And just in case you need to know, number 1 cylinder is right here, just like it would be on an old small block Chevy. And number 8 is, back over there, just like it is on an old small block Chevy. So keep that in mind when you're putting everything in there. Also, too, there is 2 different harnesses in here in this kit, and you don't need both of them to be able to hook everything up. But there's one for the 28 tooth reluctor, and then there's one for the 58 tooth reluctor. Depends on which gen engine you got. This is a 3rd gen, so it is the 24. So that's what harness we've got in here. And what else we got? I think that's pretty well it. The rest is pretty well self-explanatory. I mean, like I said, everything's labeled. You got your idle air, your maps, your all that, blah, blah, blah. This one, I guess we've got one right here. We got our intake air temperature right here. That's going to need to go into our breather eventually. I don't even have the breather yet, but if it's right up here by where we're at, it's going to get the right reading. So we'll be able to still go ahead and try to fire it up, and shouldn't have any problem with it running with that up there like that for now. Then we go on down here to the rest of the stuff. I mean, it's already got the stuff in line here for the fuel pump relay. And what is this one? That's your main relay. We got some fuses in line here. And then here's our computer. The main harness, really, all it has to hook up to make this thing run is going to be these 4 wires. So we've got a ignition hot, we've got a battery hot, we've got a fuel pump wire, and I think the last one's just a ground, isn't it? Yeah, ground. So not too bad to hook that up to be able to make sure and see if this thing's going to run. Now, we've also already got the computer, or not the computer, the dash pulled out of here, and it's sitting here too. It's also wired in, so we'll be able to actually see the RPMs and whatnot and everything. There is a whole nother harness here that comes with it, and that plug right there will plug into here. And that's where you get all the stuff like your electric fan switches and, there's, well, all of these. There's a whole mess of different stuff here. Anyways, I think we're ready to get some fuel in this thing. I got to go ahead and modify our old sending unit here to be able to cap that off, and I'll get that done real quick and then show you what that looks like. Oh yeah, one last thing. We do have O2 sensors in this as well, and these headers came with a piece that actually had a O2 sensor bung in it. Went ahead and put the O2 sensors in there too, and this kit has one on each side. All right, I think we about got everything rigged up. We've got Connor's covering up the last vacuum line up there. We had to put this vacuum line back around to there. So that's going to take care of our vacuum leaks. Our fuel pump over here has got some wires going to it. This is our one from the harness, and this one we've got just going to the battery. Connor worked up our sending unit here, so it's all capped off now. So that's all in place. And we got the computer kind of just hanging there by some wires. Got the dash sitting there ready to look at. And everything else is going up here to the battery. Okay, I'm gonna hook it up. You ready?
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna go through the setup.
And that's the jackpot. Over here, wizards, start wizard, LS, GMLS.
24 tooth. Stock.
Map.
Which map did we use?
Whichever one's the throttle body one.
I can't see it. Here, I'll hold this and we can put some young eyes on it and
Alright.
see if you can see it.
We'll see.
Nope, I didn't change it.
Oh wait, 10, there you go. Dual OB2s. Dry-by wire. No. Iron with injectors, 8. Injector flow rate. How much are these ones?
I think that's right.
Displacement.
That's right. Well, it's the same, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the same.
That looks good.
That's good.
Looks good to me. Save it.
Turn the key off.
Ready to crank on it?
I guess.
So to crank on it, we just got a button hooked up to it, and I don't guess there's anything else we need to do, right?
As far as I know.
We don't have any water in it, we don't have a belt on it, so we can't run it for very long, but if we can hear it hit for a second, then we should be good.
That shouldn't be.
Probably just leave that out, yeah. Alright, and we have no bolts in the torque converter. So we're not going to be pumping out any training fluid. So,
Yep, nothing like that.
all right, here we go.
Just reset it. When you hit it the first time, the screen reset. Weird.
Well, I don't have a very good connection on that wire. It might be goofy. Yeah, so we crank. Is it showing RPMs?
Yeah, it is.
So it's
It was like 140, 150 when it was
good
peak.
there. I smell fuel. So hopefully that's good.
Probably.
I don't see any leaking here, really.
Yeah, could check for that.
So why do we not fire? So we got a red light, blue light, and a red light. I think that means something. I need to go look that up and see. They're all either supposed to be blue or all either supposed to be red or something, I think. I'm gonna unhook this and I'm gonna check that and see if I'm right or not. Okay, so I'm hooking this back up because we read the instructions and I was wrong. It's supposed to be red, blue on the lights, and the last blue one will be the fuel pump when it's cranking. And I believe it was coming on when it was cranking. So now we're gonna hook it back up. We were getting the RPM signal, so we know that's good. The other thing to check here real quick is to make sure we have the TPS reading 0, so we're gonna check that. We've got to hook it back up to check it. Ready? TPS isn't on there, so we're gonna have to go find it and put it on there. Gauges. I think you were there. We don't need 2 fuel loop things. Just get rid of the fuel loop and.
Sensor.
There it is.
Zero.
TPS is at 0. Well, I guess we can try to start it again and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's gonna matter.
Yeah. It's just kind of.
Oh wait, it should have mattered there.
Yeah. I mean, it reads.
Okay. So that's working.
Did the C50 need a bunch of cranking before it actually fired too?
No, once I got the RPM reading, then it fired right up.
Hmm.
It just didn't have the RPM reading before because I had the wrong wire hooked up.
That's right.
So I'm not really sure now at this point. I'll go back and look at their little help thing and see if it says anything about if it doesn't start.
Mm-hmm.
I still smell fuel. It seems like I smell more fuel than we should. But
I smell a little bit. I don't see that.
all right, we're gonna try this one more time. It was bugging me that I was smelling so much fuel. That just kind of told me that it wasn't firing. I got thinking about it, and on hookers and blow, I had a problem with it not firing because I had stuff grounded to the valve cover for the coil set up to be grounded up there. We got both of them grounded on here now, and I went ahead and just switched them to the back of the head. And I ended up doing that on hookers and blow too, on the side that wasn't firing through the valve cover. And it ran way better at that point. So I'm gonna hope that maybe that's what's going on here. So, are we ready?
Yep.
Do what?
I said I was wondering what the whistling was, but pipes aren't fully sealed, I guess. It's probably.
Yeah, the pipes were just slid in there and those other pipes, so it was making that whistling sound. I'm pretty sure that's what that was. But hey, got fired up and idled and sounded pretty good actually.
Yeah, it's not bad at all.
Sweet.
Pretty excited about that.
Yeah. Well, you know what that means is now we can bring some sheet metal over here and you can start sanding and doing body work.
Yeah, love that. Do it on this, and then you got like all that to do on the 53 over there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that in the future.
Your favorite thing.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet.
So we've made it to the end of the video.
And now what?
And now what? I've made it to the end of it. I haven't been in this one. It's been a rough week, but it's all right. I really feel your guys' prayers and all the notes that you guys have been sending and saying is really, it helps keep me going. It really does. I greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate all the kind words and the prayers and all of that. And I've been praying for you guys who are in my shoes too. I appreciate it. I'm gonna get through this. It'll be all right. But I did want to get on here and tell you guys that I do greatly appreciate all the support that you guys have been given. It's meant a lot, and all the orders for the t-shirts, and we still are doing that. We've got our brand new t-shirt design is out there. It's on hardcorefab.com. I'll put the link below in a comment and in the description. You can click on there if you haven't done so yet. Last week, you have until November 9th for the pre-order sale, and get those in, and those are at a discounted price. They are on sale, and if you order them now, you also get a pack of stickers. So Hardcore Fab and Hookers and Blow and a few other stickers that we've got, we'll put in there for you, and you'll get those before Christmas. Hopefully we'll have them in and we'll be shipping them out right around Thanksgiving, since I'm not doing anything else for Thanksgiving, so. Not a good time to be with the family when your immune system's shot, so, kids are petri dishes, but that's all good. Get on the other side of this, I'll give all the love that I've missed, so. That's all I got.
Is that it?
I think that's it. Get in there and get them ordered, and again, thank you, and we'll see ya.
fortunately, that's about all I got for you guys too. I was really waiting to do a set of valve covers on here that was going to be kind of the final icing on the cake to make this thing look better and kind of clean up the ugly going on here with the LS motors, because the ones that we bought for it have they're a cast aluminum polished valve cover, and then they have another cover that goes over the top and covers up all the ugly coils and everything. That's also cast aluminum and polished, and it was going to look really sweet on there, but didn't make it.
It will look really sweet on there. I ordered them, they didn't arrive, they're coming, I don't know.
Is it still like another couple days
I
or
don't
something?
know,
So
yeah. I mean, I don't know what's going on with shipping.
originally they were
Everything's
supposed to be
taking
here yesterday, and then
Right.
now here they are, and
longer. Same with delays on the Jeep and why we're not working on that. It's
Yeah,
just been...
don't have the shocks to be able to
People-
do the front.
I
So
don't know. Shipping has just been a mess.
anyhow, I guess yeah, that's all we got for this week, and I guess we'll see you guys next Wednesday at 7.
Love you guys. Take care.